Yogo yet. What?
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Game Gabs. This is our weekly show that we're trying out where we basically just discuss the many opinions and things that we have because we find ourselves talking about them all the time and realize it's something that we can share with you guys. And
in case you didn't watch our last episode, in which case, what are you doing? Also, what's my camera doing? BRB. Oh no, I can't stop video while I'm recording. Yes, I can. Never mind. I am here. I have returned. Continue.
And we're off to a flying start. Shall I try again?
No, just keep going. It's fine.
Cool. So today we're just going to be talking about controversial opinions that we have, or those of us who have them. Some of us are boring, like Jack. But basically, we're just going to sort of... Yeah, exactly. And not at all because he just gets all his opinions from Reddit. Hot take.
I think if anything, I'm probably the boring one because I'm like, yeah, everything's cool. I don't really have
basically here, what you've got are... we basically have two very opinionated people in Cal. But yeah, so, let us know what your opinions of these topics that we talk about are. If you've got any particular controversial opinions, or anything like that. And if you have any suggestions for what we could discuss next week, let us know in the comments. So,
and don't judge people for their opinions, yo. Don't do it. Just let them be wrong. All right.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to be able to have these discussions, and even if we have an opinion that most people don't share, it doesn't necessarily mean that the other opinion is wrong. So we're going to to determine who kicks off the discussion, we're going to be rolling for it with our D12s because...
Cal sucks.
Cal doesn't have a D20 right now.
Oh, wait, hang on. I might have a D20. Wait.
Do you have a D20? I'm going to yell.
Nat has a metal dice here. Yes, I do have a D20.
Oh my God.
Then we're going to be using our D20s.
I'm going to go fishing for my D20. Just let me pour out all of my dice. I've got my D20 back.
There we go.
It's got like little cogs on it. You
that is
can't
cool.
see.
I got mine from the Gamesmen in Sydney. Check them out. Another plug that I'm not getting paid for.
Yeah,
I've no idea.
Imaginary Adventures, yet another plug that none of us are getting paid for. Sponsor us.
I plugged them last week.
Oh,
yeah. I know. Next video, I'll use my sick metal dice and I'll plug.
Are they from Imaginary Adventures though?
No, they're not. But they did come with a handwritten letter, which was very nice.
That's very cool. All right, let's do it.
That's all right. I got a 10.
13?
14.
Oh, Cal, the one who didn't want to go first is going first.
Yeah, well.
All right, kick us off, Cal. Tell us your spiciest opinion.
Spiciest opinion? I don't really have many, and I did struggle to think of really anything. But when I did... No, well, we were talking about it before. I was either going to go with I enjoyed Fallout 4 more than I enjoyed Fallout 3. But I acknowledge that 3 in a lot of ways is the better game. I never finished it. I actually could finish 4. Well, not that I couldn't finish 3. I just sort of got busy with uni and it kind of fell by the wayside. So maybe if I tried it again, it would be cool. But I think the better one to discuss is that I thought Mass Effect Andromeda was actually pretty good. And that's a pretty unpopular opinion. So.
Yeah,
I know. I'm sure most people here agree with you.
So yeah, look, I'm gonna have to play Fallout 3 again because I loved it, but I got really busy and I lost sort of the will to play it.
I've literally never finished a Fallout, in fairness, so I don't blame you.
I just got a kilogram. Oh my God.
It's the gamers' opinions are attacking you.
Yeah.
The comments are already hurting me.
You want to support this game? Voodoo magic.
So we'll go with Andromeda.
So I mean, like, one of the things about Andromeda is, we've actually had quite a few discussions about it. Mass Effect in general, like, you might have, if you saw the video last week. Mass Effect, my favorite game series of all time. Jack, you'll again. Mass Effect is my favorite game series of all time. Andromeda is my least favorite of the 4.
Oh, same here, but I still liked it.
But and I did too, and I actually think much like there's actually some things that I think you could point to about it that were actually improvements over things in the trilogy, which, yeah, don't kill me.
Well, I thought the dialogue was better. The dialogue.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. I agree there. That was one of the big things for me, was that I forget what they called it, but the system where you had like the emotional responses rather than a binary morality system, which to me is quite outdated in games, and it's one of the reasons that games like The Witcher, where the choices are all a bit grayer, I think are so much more interesting in sort of the modern sense. But the fact that, yeah, you could make those choices and then like your personality updated over time and that sort of thing. Did you ever read the codex entry thing to see what like your psych profile was in Andromeda?
I actually didn't read the codex.
Cool.
There's just like so much in there.
Yeah, if you go to like your personal codex entry, it actually updates a psych profile of the character based off the choices that you've made.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was a what was I? I think I was a hot-headed flirt, basically, was what I ended up being.
I think most people would
what
be
were
though,
you
if you want to explore all the options.
Yeah, I mean, I did have 3-4 romances in my first playthrough.
I think I had 2. I know I did them all with like in different saves, but I think in the one that I completed the game in, I might have had 2. But
yeah,
I'm not sure. Like I typically just have 1 and be faithful to that. But
yeah. I did 2 in the end, but I had the romance scene with only PB and Liam, and then there was another one, the guy on the desert planet, whose name I can't remember. He's not a squad mate, but him, I went nearly the whole way there and then turned back at the last turn, and there was another one as well.
Yeah, that's right. There was that Asari chick on the, oh man, it's been so long, I can't even remember the name of the like the hub world, the ship thing that you
Andromeda.
Perfect.
How could I was actually thinking about it the other day and I had the name. You know what I'm talking about. It's like the Andromeda's version of Citadel.
Yeah. I remember the ship is the Tempest, but is it the Ark?
No, Space Colony Ark.
Because they had the Arks, but then they all met up on the something I can't remember either.
Man, fake fans. But there was the Asari. I think she was like a journalist or something, and you could chat her up. But I think I don't know if it was just the way I played the game, but I never got anywhere with her. I think she ended up saying that she wanted someone else, or
I don't know
if that's how it always happens. But
I don't know. Maybe it does. I just remember it being absolutely criminal that Natalie Dormer's character was unromanceable.
Yeah, she was the doctor, wasn't she?
Yeah. But while me and Kel are sitting here discussing the things we liked about the game, Jack, how far into it did you even get?
So you know that big space thing you're talking about? I don't think I ever left. It's probably at this point that people would have realized that I did not enjoy it very much. No.
Yeah. Did you get to the first planet where you crash land or whatever?
Yeah. It was like, I think it was right after that I was like, I got through the main, whatever the Citadel version of the Citadel in that game is. And I was like, yeah, man, I am struggling to find reasons to care yet. And that was my issue, was like, with the first Mass Effect game, like I got that from a friend. I bought his Xbox and got like 5 of these games with it, and Mass Effect was one of them. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll play this. And that was probably, like, if you don't include Pokemon, because you probably shouldn't, that was one of my early RPGs. Mind you, I was like in high school, but still. So I didn't have a lot of RPG experience as a kid. And I for whatever reason, I was just super into it immediately. I was like, man, this is sick. This is all really cool. And I found myself invested really quickly. And then I played Andromeda for like 6 or 7 hours. And I was like, man, I kind of just don't care. And I will comment on that whole conversation thing that you guys mentioned. I thought that was sick until the 3rd time where none of the conversation options were what I wanted to say. And I was like, man, this, like, I was really hyped for it. And then again, there was like 3 times where it was like, all of these answers make me talk like a dick. And it's like, that's not what I want to do here. And that was kind of like, I liked that there were more approaches than just, this is good, this is bad, this is, and it was like, that's awesome. It's just, I feel like there were a few situations where you're kind of locked into like, well, I just have to say one of these things. And I was like, man.
Yeah, I get
like
that.
the idea, though. I really
feel
like
all of the games have done that, though.
Yeah, but again, those are literally good, bad, middle ground. And the difference with that is sometimes the ones are like, the thing will say, I don't agree with that. And then the dialogue is, you're a fucking idiot. And why would you ever say this, you moron,
like
evil person? It's like,
Fallout 4 was
what I wanted
to say. Sometimes the prompt isn't exactly what. Yeah.
Did you play Renegade at all in the trilogy though, Jack?
Yeah, I had to for achievements, yeah.
Oh, that's right. But you only did for the first game.
Well, I only played 2 and 3 once, so.
Yeah. So
I did start to
Renegade's a bit like that sometimes, where like you, in fact, both ways. Sometimes the bottom one will be like, no, you're a fool. And then you select it and it's like, I just don't agree with you. Or it's like, you know, sorry, there's someone else. And he turns around and says, ha, sort of thing. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So it's always been a little bit like that. But I think the thing that I would comment to that is that Mass Effect, to me, the trilogy feels very much like, it's like there's actually a great YouTube video, which I can't remember the title of or who made it, but maybe I'll find that and we can link that in the description because it's awesome. About the shared
more work for me.
I'll find the video.
You do it.
The shared ownership of I think it was of Shepard. The shared ownership of Shepard. Basically talking about the fact that he's not, unlike what, you know, classic RPGs are, like Dungeons and Dragons, which, you know, obviously you completely make the character. And then what spawned out from that, the games like Baldur's Gate, I think Fallout 2, you make your own character in Fallout as well, don't you? I haven't played Fallout.
Yeah.
As in like the original ones I'm talking
about.
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh, you have like, you choose all your stats and your...
But it's like a blank slate character, yeah? Like you don't have like a personality and stuff. You choose dialogue and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And Dragon Age Origins, and like that's the kind of classic blank slate thing. Elder Scrolls, another classic example. Whereas Mass Effect was very much like Shepard is Shepard. Shepard is always a hero, whether they're like ruthless or kind. They're always a hero, which is why you have Paragon and Renegade rather than good versus evil. On the other hand, it felt like in Andromeda, they were trying to give you more flexibility with Ryder, but that meant that when they took the reins, which they still did in the kind of Commander Shepard way, I agree with you. It felt more like they were yanking it out of your control. Whereas in the trilogy, I found that when it got yanked out of my control, I was like, oh, so that's what Shepard would say there. I don't like that, but okay.
Yeah, it was like this weird, I would never say that the conversation system was worse, because I do think it was an improvement. I just think because of the nature of it and the way that they were approaching it, when it didn't work, it was more obvious.
That's exactly what I agree.
And it was 100%. Like, oh man, that's Whereas the other ones, it's like, whoa.
Yeah,
it's almost.
And I think, and I think like
you talk too much and he stabs through the battalion.
that's. I mean, that's already going to interrupt, but that's so good.
I did that one, and I didn't expect that to happen because I was playing. So I didn't know that the Renegade and Paragon were mapped to the buttons.
Right.
Yeah.
So you saw the prompt come up on screen. And you're like,
oh! Yeah. And it kind of worked because I wasn't playing strict Paragon. I was doing like some things, but that one was probably a little bit harsh for my Shepard, but I decided to live with it.
But what about like the one where Shepard just kicks a dude out a window, or sets fire to a Krogan?
Did you punch the reporter?
No, never.
Can't you punch her a bunch of times, and the last time you try to do it, she like dodges and punches you or something?
You have to do it twice, because when you do it the first interrupt, she's like, ha, I was ready for you, and if you don't do it again, she decks you.
Yeah. But you can like follow her up while she's bragging about it. It's so messed up. Like
it's pretty screwed up.
To be fair, she's a dickhead, but you still should punch her in the face.
But she isn't. If you take the Paragon route in the last one, she actually is like a war asset to you. It actually comes.
I know, but she's still fishing for like, oh, you think that this is this, don't you? And it's like,
yeah,
what are you
she
talking about?
really pissed me off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
And I
still,
ended up
a punch
doing
in the
that,
face is
and
like, come
I
on,
was
man.
really shocked at that.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
was shocked that that was even in the
just
game.
like,
honestly.
you could tell her to like piss off or something. It's like, why? It was like,
You can, like, you know,
I
you
know.
take the renegade
I know,
interrupts.
it's just like, it's so it's so extreme. Like,
It's so
wow,
extreme.
dude.
It is. Yeah.
Just imagine the scandal, though. It's like, oh, this war hero comes back from, overseas, like in our world, and the reporter comes up and says, "So what did you see over there?" Boom! Just decks him.
And also, like the way she was trying to vilify Shepard, he didn't do himself any favors by just knocking her out.
No.
I still love hanging up on the Citadel Council whenever they call you, and one of them's like, if you hang up on us again, and he's like, yep. It's great. It gets better every time.
What's one of them's like, Shepard, did you hang up on us? I don't know. Did it sound like this?
Yeah. I think there's one where Joker's like happy that you do it.
He's happy every time.
Every time, yeah. At least every time you do it, he thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. But no, look, I think, to sort of bring it back to Andromeda before we move on a bit, I do think like the thing I would say with it was that it was clearly a worse game. And whilst I've played the trilogy like 7 or 8 times, I think that was my 8th playthrough recently.
It's impressive.
I've only played Andromeda once, and I think the going open world and things like that, I don't think that serviced the game. I think Mass Effect better suits the mission sort of more linear story. Keep the kind of open galaxy exploration and that sort of thing, but I preferred the more focused story of story missions of the trilogy, which all 3 had. And I think it just was a better formula for Mass Effect. But that being said, I thought the combat in Andromeda, aside from massive balance issues, which they did eventually patch, I thought the combat was very good.
Really
I enjoyed it enough, yeah.
Heaps harder.
Yeah. I think I liked the style of gameplay, but it seemed like it felt weird to be a superhero in my Mass Effect game. It was enjoyable, but it was like, why?
And I must admit, I don't think Ryder as a character was as compelling as Shepard, because they were going for like a younger character, but then they made Ryder way more overpowered. Yeah. So it was like, it felt a little Mary Sue.
I'm unexperienced.
That game really hard when I started. Like, to me, I'm not really good at shooters in general, and because the combat was so much faster, I got my ass handed to me every time.
And Andromeda's pretty hard. The starting mission was very hard.
I found like early in EOS, like in that part of the game, like and there's just swarms of Ket. They would just absolutely destroy me.
Yeah, and I found the what do you call them? Were they the Remnant? I want to say
the ruins that you explore.
Yeah, I found their fights when there were lots of them. They were a nightmare. That was like fighting a bunch of Praetorians from ME2. That was awful. They were
just on the open world thing, it's a preference thing for me, but I prefer that generally. But I think the worlds were too sparse in Andromeda.
I did feel like I got lost a lot as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I have 2 desert planets was kind of a bit shit.
Yeah, I think there were 3 actually.
3, okay. I remember EOS and the other one that's like brutally hot that you can't. Yeah.
The like Krogan one.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was thinking there were 2 desert ones and an ice one. It was like, really?
Yeah, they're almost the same landscape, except they're just as barren.
Except one's white and one's yellow.
Yeah. And they're actually my 2 least favorite types of terrain in the game.
It was just so telling to me that, like, I've talked about this a bunch. My favorite like world in that game by far was the one where you couldn't use your vehicle and you were on that like what are they called? Was the VAR? God, it's been so long since I played it. Giles race.
Man.
Yes.
I really should have looked some of this up before we started talking about it. I can't remember.
I am Googling right now. Giles
Krogan.
Is Angara.
Angara,
the Angara world where it's like super jungly.
And their
that was my
city
favorite.
too was cool too.
Yeah, those two, like their city and that was my favorite part. And I actually,
I'd probably agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think one of the biggest issues I had with that game was they went to a whole new galaxy and had one new race. And I know they did it for lore reasons, but let's be real, those lore reasons were to justify only having to design one more race. That is
kind of two, but not really two.
I mean, the Ket
Also,
the Ket do
really
not count.
Yeah,
they do not count. And on top of that, you know, spoiler alert, sort of, but like they're the Reapers again. Like literally, it's like it's the same plot line, except, you know, obviously not like coming in from somewhere else. But this whole idea is like, oh, they're us but change. It's like, so were the Reaper forces. There was a lot of story issues that I had with that game. I really enjoyed the combat. I thought the character interactions were great, and I thought there were some really great characters. I loved Vetra.
Yeah, Vetra was sick.
Yeah, I loved Vetra. I actually liked Peebee.
I liked Peebee. She was kind of annoying, but she grew on you.
That was exactly my experience with her. And there was another one I really liked.
Jarl was awesome.
Yeah, well, Jarl. Sorry, yeah, obviously he was great. The Krogan was cool too, though he did just feel like worse Rex.
Old Rex.
Yeah, well, Rex is old.
Rex.
Older Rex.
But yeah, so like I liked the characters well enough, not well enough to remember them that well, but I liked them well enough. But it just,
I guess my opinion is I thought the game was cool, but it was worth playing. But I didn't think the game was amazing. Like it didn't. It's not my favorite game. Yeah. But I think it serves the series in a cool way, and I think it cops a lot more hate than it deserves for like some of the bugs that are now patched and stuff like that. And also too, just being very different from what people might have been expecting. I came into Mass Effect later, like Andromeda was already well and truly a thing before I even played the first one. So
yeah. And I will say that the hype was huge. Like I was so pumped for Andromeda, and when it wasn't everything I wanted it to be, I was a bit like, But
I can see how that would have been a kick in the nuts.
I enjoyed it. Like when it came out, I played it the whole way through without stopping. Like so. Yeah.
I think also too because I was so late to the party with that, everyone had said so many bad things about Andromeda. I'm like, no, I'm going to play it anyway because I love these games so much. And it exceeded my expectations because I thought it was going to be disgusting. And it wasn't really that bad. It was actually good. But anyway, I think we've waffled on about that one long enough.
Yeah. And I mean, so I think like that actually probably transitions well to if I know the opinion you're going to talk about, Jack, I actually think that's not a bad place to jump onto yours, hearing terrible things and then it not being that bad, except kind of the opposite. If your opinion's what I think it is.
You've lost me. You completely lost me.
What's your opinion, Jack?
What's my opinion? Well, I got one that only I can talk about, but my main one was I want to just talk about Pokemon, man.
Yeah, so that's actually what I thought. And we have
okay. It's just your analogy confused the hell out of me. I was like, "What are you talking about?"
So talking about the originals, the fact that like you feel that they don't hold up.
I would like to point out before going into this that I both played the original games as a child and have a lot of nostalgia for them. And my favorite Pokemon game, whilst I still, in my opinion, I would say the best is Gen 4 Gold and Silver. My favorite games, and this is mostly nostalgia, is original Gold and Silver. So the second game in the series. But it's very unlikely you'll ever get me to play the original game again. Like maybe Yellow, because it's a unique experience to an extent.
Is the only difference that Pikachu follows you in that?
There's a few differences. I think a lot of the sprites are different because it's semi-based on the anime. Like Team Rocket's in that game. Like Jesse and James Team Rocket. Like obviously.
Okay, so it is a bit different. Okay.
Yeah, and you can get all three starters traded to you, but they're just gift Pokemon. And I think a lot of the sprites are different because at that point, I always forget his name, but the guy who had done the official art of Pokemon for like the TV show and the handbooks and stuff like that, he had done that art already, which is why the original games look so bizarre design-wise.
Okay, I like that.
Pick-a-Fat. Well, Pick-a-Fat was around for a while. Like, I don't think he became slim until Gen 3 or 4, really.
And he's back.
Yeah, he came back for Sword and Shield. But
He was pretty fat in like the first Smash Bros too.
Yeah, he was. He slimmed down for I think in Brawl he's still chunky. I think it took and that was Gen 4, which is interesting. But I think it took until Smash for Wii U for them to slim him down, like the TV show and the current games. But yeah, my thing was just that, man, the original Pokemon games just don't really hold up in so many ways. Like, they're just really glitchy. They're probably the most, well, obviously they'd be the most dated because of the oldest, but like graphically, there's a lot to be improved. The sprites, a lot of them look really weird. They got some charm to them, as all old games kind of do if you've played them back then, but they're just, a lot of them look gross and not like what the Pokemon look like anymore. I think Coughing's mouth is like on top of his eyes or something. I can't remember what it is. Or no, I think the skull crossbones is on top of his head is actually what I meant to say. I don't remember. It's something like that.
Yeah.
And missing no as well, or missing number as well.
Missing number, that's a big glitch. The whole thing with being able to get Mew through just messing with the game code, because like if a trainer spots you and you press, like if you press pause moving on a tile, it pauses before the trainer is drawn in. So once you let go of pause, the trainer sees you out of the pause menu, giving you enough time to fly or teleport, which just messes with the game. And then it reads like different number digits from your thing to manipulate RNG and stuff like that. And it's like, oh my God.
Actually sounds like it could be fun though.
It's fun, just not necessarily for the right reasons. Like the bag has no sorting system. Every item is just listed one after the other in semi-random order. And you have to make room for stuff all the time. Like going to find the map is like, all right, I have to go all the way down in. Bikes and stuff like that, Pokeballs, which is less of an issue when I think you're battling Pokemon and stuff. Just like a lot of stuff like that. And then the whole thing of just the way that the mechanics work. Like if you want to win that game, catch Alakazam. You win. Because one of the biggest glitches in that game is that ghost types are coded incorrectly. So instead of being wait, hang on, I have to think of which direction it is, but instead of being super effective ghost moves against Psychic, they don't do anything, which is horrible. It's not even resistant, they just don't work. So the only weakness that Psychic types have is Bug type, and I think the strongest move that they have is like Leech Life.
Yeah.
And also, there's not a lot of options. Like, I guess you got Venomoth and Scyther and Pinsir, but even then, like, compared to Alakazam, and like, I will say this: the physical special split in Gen 4 is great.
Yeah.
But I honestly can't say if there's a bigger deal than them splitting special in general, because in Gen 1, special is it's special attack and special defense are the same number.
Yeah.
So Alakazam having crazy special attack also gave him crazy special defense.
Yeah. Yes.
The physical special split made the game better, but the special split just made the game playable.
Yeah. And I think that kind of like that actually speaks to the big thing with for me about Pokemon, which is that like I play quite a lot of competitive and have followed the competitive scene for ages. And was actually planning to go to tournaments and stuff this year until, M. Night
Shyamalan's The Happening.
Yes, exactly. Not getting demonetized.
I don't think that's actually a thing anymore, but
no, I
just like calling it The Happening.
Yeah, we'll stick to that. But yeah, so for me, competitive elements of Pokemon are really important. Like it's a side I look at very heavily. I do enjoy the games, but for me, the game starts once you beat it. And playing those old games, like for me, even Gen 3, like before the physical special split, it blows my mind. Like I can't deal with it. I find it so frustrating. Not to mention when the types were specific, like, cause types were specific physical or special as well.
Yeah,
and
like
Ghost
Psychic, I think every Psychic move was special, wasn't it? And Fire as well.
Yeah. And Ghost was physical.
Fire Punch is a special move.
Yep. And so's like, I mean, I don't think Shadow Ball existed, but it just like it made certain Pokemon just useless because like Gengar has better special attack by a mile. So it's just like when you're running, you know, they had bad ghost moves back then anyway, I think. I don't even think they had Shadow Ball in Gen 3, did they? I don't know. Can't remember.
I'm not sure.
I started playing with Gen 4. I've gone back and played some Gen 3, but Gen 4 was where I started. So I came in when it was pretty close to what it is now. Which is where, like, for me, the original games, I just can't. Like, I find, as I said, I find Gen 3 tough to get my head, tough to play. Just because it frustrates me so much not being able to use some of the things I know.
I would never in my life tell you to play original Gen 2.
Yeah.
I would maybe get you to play Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but if you're coming from it from a competitive standpoint, that game's not going to do you any favors either, because Gen 2 Pokemon are pretty weak. Really cool designs, in my opinion, but weak.
Did Heart Gold and Soul Silver do that thing that you're talking about? Or did they have the
Well,
old...
it came after Platinum and all that, so yeah.
Heart Gold Soul Silver is a Gen 4 game, so they've got all the new updates.
Yeah.
My first Pokemon game was Gold, which I played through and loved, and then I got Sapphire, and that's still my favorite one. But I've played Heart Gold as well, but because I never played competitively, I just played the campaign, so I didn't really care too much about any of that stuff. So I didn't notice. But
the game's not hard enough for it to really affect either of us. I don't think we would ever notice.
I mean, it only, like, some of the post-game content, like the Battle Towers and Frontiers and stuff like that, actually got very hard, and that's when you did actually have to start doing that stuff to do well. But the thing for me was, it just, like, I'm the sort of person who likes to, like, we've talked about this with Dragon Age, for example, that, like, Dragon Age Origins, if Mass Effect's my favorite series, that's probably my favorite standalone game. The mechanics of that, like, gameplay wise, I know is the barrier to most people playing it, and it's one of the reasons I have trouble recommending it to people, because the way it plays is so boring in many ways.
I didn't get very far into it. No,
you will though. Because that was a gift.
I got. I gave
to play it too.
Shot. I actually did make it, like, obviously not far, but I made a decent amount. I did everything I could up to the point that I got to.
Yeah, I think the thing that for me redeems that game and makes it able to be replayed so many times is that I enjoy the builds. And it's the same with Pokemon for me. Even though I don't need to do it to get through the game, I'm the sort of person who will make my Pokemon as good as possible. Learning about natures and stuff like that frustrates me playing through the campaigns now, because every time I get, like, a really bad one and I've got bad IVs and stuff, I'm like, oh, nope, I don't need it. Just play the game. This game holds your hands so hard anyway. Just play the game.
Yeah.
But it frustrates me.
I struggle to play Gen 5 onwards, because I'm kind of like, this isn't very hard. Like, admittedly, Black and White 2 basically have a hard mode, which is cool. But once it, like I think Gen 4, I still challenged me a little bit, but not much. And then Gen 5, I was kind of like,
Cynthia was hard.
Yeah, but I feel like there was not many points before that where I was like, man, I'm struggling. It was like, I'm getting through fine. And Gen 5 was even easier. And then once you got to X and Y, it's like, it's just not a hard game anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, bluntly, I don't think it ever was. That's my...
As a kid, Gen 2 was like, please kill me. Now it's nothing.
I was about to say, I think that's the difference though. Like, playing Pearl, when I first played it, Cynthia was hard. I'm sure I wouldn't have any trouble now. And there's so many ways to exploit that. And Fire Red for me wasn't hard. Like that big reveal when it's like, oh my God, he's the champion. He got here before me. I kicked his ass. It was not a challenge. I absolutely demolished that dude.
Oh, look, Gen 1 isn't much harder, because you just, like I said, Nidoking or Alakazam, you're good.
Yeah, which is hilarious, because Alakazam's still good. Nidoking, not so much.
There are some games where I thought there was 1 or 2 games where Alakazam's like whatever, but I could be wrong.
Alakazam is a glass cannon. He's decent in singles because he's very, very fast, and Mega Alakazam actually was really quite good. So he's
bizarre
very
that
fast.
he's so fast to me. I don't know why.
He's just super frail, super fast, and hits really hard. So and Psychic's a good type. So he's been an offensive threat. The main issue is that in VGC, fast, frail Pokemon don't tend to do as well. You generally look more at bulk. So, like, the big threats this gen have been things like Gmax Lapras, huge, probably one of the biggest ones. Gmax Lapras, Dusclops, Crit Kiss, so Togekiss.
Ops.
Dusclops, yeah.
Why not Dust Noir?
Because of a Violite. So Violet's an item that, if given to a not fully evolved Pokemon, it doubles their defenses.
I would have called it Eviolite because it's evolve.
Yeah, it could be
I do
that.
actually know what it is, just the way you said it. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. So Clefairy and Dusclops are both better than their evolved forms.
That's awesome. Isn't Railu better now?
Railu is also, well, no, they're just very different. So Railu gets Prankster, which is one of the best abilities in the game, and means that he has Prankster coaching. So you can do coaching shenanigans on your teammates with priority, whereas Lucario loses Prankster. So
interesting.
If Lucario still had Prankster, it'd be the better one, but it doesn't. So
I will say though, despite all the shit, I do think that Gen 1 just set up a lot of great stuff. Like, I still really appreciate it as a game. Like, obviously there's a lot that we have now that we wouldn't have from that. And I think the core mechanic of catching every Pokemon, trading and battling with your friends is such a strong thing that they established right off the bat.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of greatness in that game. And I think at the time it would have been sick.
Were there other gacha games at the time? I know Pokemon's only kind of a gacha game, but were there others?
No idea. But I just know that it really worked, and just the way that it was constructed and the like how iconic these Pokemon were. And I think the TV show helped a lot in selling that.
It was only like maybe last year or the year before. I think you told me, Jack, that the game came before the show, and I couldn't believe that.
Yeah,
because
it's like smack in the middle. Yeah. Game, show, game based on show, sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the first episode, the Ho-Oh is in at the very end of the first episode, the legendary of the next game.
Yeah, I kind of just always chalk that down to they were prepping, like they did the show and then I guess, I do agree. As a child of the 90s, I played Gold a lot. I didn't own the original games, but I eventually acquired this bootleg Game Boy cartridge with like 120 games on it.
That's awesome.
I bought it off one of my friends in high school.
The pre-R4.
Yeah, it's just got like heaps of stuff on it. Half of it doesn't work. Half of them don't save, but
that's Game Boy games now.
Yeah, true.
The same batteries died.
Maybe just the battery died by then. But
dude, you have no upset. You have no idea. I had every Pokemon in Pokemon Gold because I had a copy of Pokemon Yellow, and I got every Pokemon in that game, traded them over to Gold, and then got all the Silver exclusives from my mate. I had every Pokemon game, booted it up about 3 years ago, corrupted save file because the save battery died. I'm like, no.
So much time. But yeah, where I was going with that was I can appreciate old games as much as the next guy, but I couldn't. I fired up Blue, and I just come off the back of Gen 3, and I was like, man, this looks terrible, and I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah. And I feel like, I think the biggest thing that I would say that does go with your point that kind of dates the original generation is the fact that Pokemon hasn't evolved gameplay-wise that much. The core mechanics are still the same, which means that going back to that first gen, it just feels like a graphical downgrade. It doesn't really feel like you're getting anything out of it that you don't get out of Fire Red or Leaf Green or anything like that.
And
but at the same, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I loved the look of Gen 3 with like the almost Super Nintendo kind of graphics by that point, and going to 1 where it was pretty much all one color and just like it.
Well, it wasn't meant to be in color.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah,
it's weird that like it plays in like blue's blue and red's red, isn't it? When you play.
Well, I think from memory they designed ways to make it utilize color, but it's not very advanced. That's why when you're walking around towns, as soon as you enter a new town, the color just shifts. It's like it's not everything's colored, it's everything is green, everything is red, everything is blue. It changes based on where you are. So it's simple. They put something in there, but it's pretty simple because it's
It
obviously
would actually probably be really cool to fire that up on an old school Game Boy and play it in everything being green and black. Maybe that would be a better way to play it. Because I found that everything being blue was really distracting and just looked, I don't know, unnatural even for a game. What's going on with your camera?
it's such an ass. And it's gonna
Controversial
make
opinion,
editing
bad
this.
camera.
It's gonna make editing this so much harder. I could fix it. I just haven't.
Did
Oh
you
come on! It was fixing itself. I'm just gonna turn it off. This is gonna make editing worse, but whatever.
Yep.
Because it's gonna shift every time I do that.
Yeah.
I'll look for those
Did you
moments.
play the original ones on color or on the old Game Boy, Jack?
Color. I never owned an old Game Boy. My first console was a Game Boy Color.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I didn't own the Gen 1 games until Game Boy Advance, but I was still a kid at that point. Like, there was still primary school days.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough that my older sister left all her gaming stuff when she moved out. So my first two things were an original Game Boy and a Super Nintendo when they were pretty much, they were relevant at the time. So,
Yeah.
but I didn't have Pokemon until later.
So, I mean, one thing that I've just, sort of bring it back around to a little bit of, the first one being a letdown and stuff. It does. I think one of the difference of opinions, like between one of the strong differences of opinion between the three of us is that I'm not a huge old player of old games. Like the first console that I ever owned was a PS2 Slim. Before that, I was playing PC. Like I had Age of Empires, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, that sort of thing. But even that was fairly limited. Like I didn't have much on PC. So when I first got my PS2 and Lord of the Rings Return of the King game, I think is what came with that.
That was a good game.
It was a good game.
It was a sick game.
I was like, oh, this is awesome. And, I started getting lots of stuff. Like I briefly borrowed a PS1 from my uncle when I was young. But yeah, I didn't get a DS until the Lite as well. And that was my first handheld.
I think I had a Lite as well.
Yeah. So for me, I've got this much more sort of modern, more, current bent, I guess. And a lot of the old games I've played has actually been me going back and playing them. And I think one of the things that I find with Pokemon, and this definitely is a controversial opinion, and it also applies to me, by the way, is that people's favorite Pokemon game tends to be entirely nostalgia based. There is actually, I don't think I've ever spoken to someone who can justify the reason their favorite game is their favorite game. And I've heard so many people be like, Fire Red's the best Pokemon game. And I'm like, why? And they're like, oh, because the Pokemon. I'm like, they're in Pearl. You got to beat the game first, but they're in Pearl. They're in Diamond. They're in all of them, except some of them in the most recent one. But it's this sort of thing where it's just like, I think, talking to Jack about Gen 2 being his favorite, he's just objectively wrong because the Pokemon in Gen 2 are bad.
Well, I've always said I genuinely, based off of actual opinions that I can put together, is that I would argue that the best game is definitely Gen 4, just a matter of it's Diamond, Platinum, Pearl, or the Gen 2 remakes. Either way, it's definitely one of those as far as I can tell, because a lot of the other reasons are just heavily disputed and often opinion-based. Like, well, obviously it's all opinion-based, but often nostalgia-based. And it's like, man, I just struggle to see all that. But those two, there's just so many things that people are throwing at it. They're both very revolutionary games. And obviously the Gen 4 remake of 2 is just a better version of 2, because whilst newer isn't always better, in this case, it kind of was.
And I think, but even that, like my first was Pearl, and I would still call it my favorite of the series. And yet I find it hard to imagine ever going back to Gen 4, except to play one of the games that I hadn't played, like, because I still haven't played Heart Gold or Soul Silver. Because to me, like, playing X and Y was a complete, like, revelation, because, oh my God, it's easy to do competitive stuff. You actually don't have to be a no-lifer to do competitive stuff. It was like, you don't need a million tons of luck and training or RNG manipulation, which, yes, I did learn how to do.
Me too.
I have perfect shiny Terrakion from Gen 5 and a perfect shiny Kyurem. I have a few of them. But like, to me, when we got to X and Y, and it was like, now we can actually do this quite easily. You can see what the EVs and IVs your Pokemon have are. And now where we're at now, where it's like you can change anything. If you that starter that you started with that used to basically be useless in post game, you get the right items, you can make it competitively viable. So to me, I'm like, as much as I understand a lot of the complaints about, you know, the recent Pokemon games and being too handholdy and stuff, for me, most of the changes they've made have been just good. Like the fact that competitive is easier. In my opinion, the cutting down the decks made it way more like, it's made the metas for pretty much this whole year much more interesting, though I'm scared for Crown Tundra. No Lando T. But there's lots of, just like, to me, it's been a whole much better, much more user-friendly experience to actually get into competitive. And like the competitive scene's been bigger than it's ever been as a result. So even though, yeah.
What about if we were to judge them on their campaigns though? Because I've never played competitively and I don't really know much about the scene, but like
that's
the
a whole
game
thing.
Yeah, so I mean that's how I base. Well, I've only played 2, so I've played Gold and Sapphire.
Well,
I preferred Gen 3 to 2 because it was shorter. I like the shorter campaign. I like the map. I like I thought it was just an improvement.
You liked the map?
I loved the map.
You liked surfing for 12 hours.
The surfing part was
much
kind of
water.
lame, but
Yeah.
no, I still didn't mind that, honestly. You just have to use repels.
I liked it to some extent. I found a lot of the exploration in that game to be pretty frustrating.
Remember, keep in mind, Cal is me dialed to 11. Talk to every dog. Get fun.
Yeah,
have fun. Just getting completely
I actually,
lost.
yeah, I love exploring in a game. I'm quite happy to just
I
go
normally
around the
don't
map
mind.
like Snake on a Nokia phone, just spiral around and go everywhere and talk to everyone. And
normally that's not a problem. The problem is that one of the biggest areas in the game that you can explore requires you to either buy a shitload of repels, or stop every few seconds to fight a fish or a seagull. It's very frustrating.
My
point is like, I judge a Pokemon, I judge any game really off its campaign, and I like 3 because of that. But I still really, really loved Gold.
I think my honest opinion on that, sorry, and I'll let you talk, Jack, but my honest opinion on that, and this is probably another controversial hot take, is that they're all the same and it doesn't matter. That's why I value them off the competitive side more. Platinum, I think, is the most different, and same with Sun and Moon was very different. I didn't love what they did with Sun and Moon, but I appreciated that they attempted something. Black and White 2 was also quite different. But
I only half agree with what you said, because I think Pokemon campaign is usually less of the driving force of that. And honestly, a lot of the time in the Pokemon games that I've played, I found that adding the depth of the story, bizarrely, very often subtracts from the game. I think it distracts from a lot of what makes that game so effective. Most people, like, this is based off of people I know, so it's not a set in stone argument, but there are very few people that I know that give a shit about what the story is. They just want to be able to collect what they collect, train what they train, have interesting battles, get through to the Elite Four, and then obviously have something to go on to. That's why when it comes to talking about campaign, my only preference is Gen 2, simply because there's something after the campaign. It's not just, I beat the Elite Four, now what? It's, I beat the Elite Four, let's beat the original 8 gyms. I love that, because it's not really adding more story, it's just giving you more to do and further to go.
It's a pretty huge game when you think about it.
And I like, the thing that I liked about Sun and Moon is that, it built a story around that game, but most of that story is just making the core of Pokemon games of just getting a team and becoming the best, it just made that a little bit more interesting.
Do you mean Sword and Shield?
That's what I meant. What did I say?
Yeah.
Sun and Moon?
Sun and Moon, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Never played that
Sun and
one.
Moon was the opposite. That was the one where they had the Ultra Beasts and stuff.
Oh yeah, that hurt my brain. There's like 50 legendaries in this game.
Yeah, and they're all really broken. Let's not talk about Kartana or what's its name, Stakataka. But
Sunleo, I don't know what it's actually called.
Solgaleo.
That one.
Yeah. That said, Sun and Moon had a sick boss fight. Ultra Necrozma actually was apparently genuinely hard. I didn't have any trouble, but like apparently it was one of those things where when people got up to it, it would just wreck you, and you'd have to come back later.
No idea. And Miltake's rollout in the second gen gold.
Yeah. The big thing I will say about Sword and Shield, whilst I agree with what you're saying, Sword and Shield went so far the other direction that it actually took the power out of your hands. You are not pushing the story at all. In fact, every time there's a story beat, what's the champion's name? Is it Leon? It's Leon. Every time there's a story beat, Leon comes along and goes, "It's okay, I'll save the day. You go and be a child." And then goes and does stuff, and it's like, yes, I'm 10, but no other Pokemon game has cared about that. Let me do stuff. So Sword and Shields, I actually found the campaign extremely dull. I get what you're saying, and I like the attempt at that, like trying to make the core concept a bit better. I've actually come around to agreeing with you on that. I don't think it should have story. What I think they should do from a making it more interesting point of view is take the wild area concept and basically just make it a freaking open world, but with cool side quests that aren't stories. They're Pokemon. The legendaries are things where it's like you stumble into an area that's frozen because Articuno's freezing it, and once you go and catch Articuno, the area unfreezes.
I love Mystery Dungeon.
Maybe, but like. Quite.
There's a stretch.
But like my point is, how cool would it be if you're exploring in this open world and then all of a sudden, you just see this bird just fly across and suddenly a blizzard's everywhere and you're trying to navigate this area and the only way to get out is to defeat Articuno, knock it out, catch it, whatever. I just think there's so many cool things you could do with an open world Pokemon game that aren't just, here's a whole bunch of grass with Bewares going at you in them. As funny as all the compilations of people getting chased by very scary Pokemon running really fast are. Yeah. So I don't know. I basically think the campaign of almost every Pokemon game is quite boring. My interest is in the Pokemon and the mechanics.
I think there's not much to be said about the campaign, but it's just it's that thing like the chase is better than the acquisition. So you spend a lot of time just honing your party and grinding and leveling up, and I kind of like that. I like that in a lot of RPGs.
I think that's a good point. I think what you said is pretty much bang on. What I'm saying is it's just that process of being the very best, not as cliche as that.
How awesome is it when your Pokemon finally evolves and
it's good feeling.
Yeah. Now try giving it one of the EXP candies. From
what you shouldn't do is make one of your favorite Pokemon a Pokemon that evolves at level 60. That's cool.
Just give it an EXP candy, it'll get there.
Yeah.
Those things are ridiculous.
Different game. Yes. Yeah. Well, I got all my Pokemon to level 80 for the final boss, and was like, why am I? What is this? It's why? And just the whole thing about every Pokemon getting experience every battle. It's this is barely a grind anymore.
It's not. In fact, that's actually a really good point. The constant EXP share. I was originally oh yes, what a godsend. But there was actually another video which I can't remember but I watched recently discussing the issues with the modern Pokemon games and that sort of thing, which again I'll find and we can link. But they basically explain what it's talking about is why the modern Pokemon games have undermined what you're talking about, Kel, and that be the very best thing, which is that if it becomes really trivial to be the very best, it doesn't feel rewarding. Let's just even just talking about the personality of your rival in Sword and Shield. His arc is that he's bad, and that you're good. Great. No, but he doesn't. He knows he's bad.
He knows he's bad later. He's like, I'm going to be the best. You watch. I'm going to be great. And then he's like, man, I'm like just the worst.
Every battle with him is like, man, you're so good. How am I ever going to get as good as you? And it's like, your rival is supposed to be like one of those like, oh, I've just turned a corner, my rival's at me, and I'm like, oh no, I hope I'm ready for this.
Oh, like in is it Gen 2 where your rival steals the Pokemon? Is actually badass.
Like the very start of the game, he steals one of the starter. He breaks into Elm's lab and takes the
really?
Pokemon.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, the Gen 2 rival is a full-on edgelord.
Yeah,
he has an arc, dude. Did you know that rivals can have character arc? It's crazy.
But is that a sign of the times with like the whole you get a participation award thing? It is angled towards kids. It's more like trying not to discourage them.
I think this is actually it's a bit of an issue with quite a lot of sorry, yes and no. It's an issue with a lot of things where basically game developers are aiming for the lowest common denominator, meaning that they want to make sure that the least game knowledgeable person to pick up the game is able to play it. And yes, with Pokemon, they want the kid audience because they're still getting them. It's not us playing. We are not the audience of these games. We are not who they are aiming at. We are part of it, but we are not their primary audience. So yeah, that is what's happening. The thing that's dumb there is that if you talk to like some, teenagers, for example, who were playing some of the most recent ones when they were kids and then have gotten older, who are into Pokemon, because you see a lot of discussions around this sort of thing on Reddit and YouTube and things like that. And I've seen some people around that age, like saying they're like 16 or something, talking about the fact that their favorite Pokemon game is one of the old ones that they went back and played because the new ones, once they sort of hit a certain age, got really boring. Whereas then they went back and played Heart Gold because they loved the old ones and were like, oh, this is actually fun because the rival feels like a challenge and the
Miltank will kill you.
Yeah, literally. Whereas now it's like, there was one point I think in Sword and Shield where I nearly lost, and that was just because I didn't grind. I just walked through the game. I didn't explore. I didn't grind. I just wanted to get to the end so I could play online. I just walked through the game, and then I think the final legendary, I was like, oh, this guy's actually quite strong. I'm very underleveled.
Yeah, I also love how he has a Gigantamax form, but you can't ever use it. It's the only time you ever see it is that battle. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Is it worth me playing the one on the Sword Shield on Switch?
If you have the perspective that I do, probably. Honestly, I love the gym battles in that game. The music in that is so strange because if you show it to someone, it's kind of but in the moment, it's so hype because that part of the song comes in when Gigantamax starts or Dynamax starts, and it's like, dude. And I remember
showed me that. Yeah,
I did. And I just showed you the song, and it's like, it's okay, but oh my god, are you serious? It's like I'm gonna keep speaking while I try.
Your audio is a bit funny too. I don't know if it's just on my end, but
is it sound? I don't know. I was gonna say it sounds fine for me.
Now.
Yeah. Just listen to the song. It's kind of like it seems odd for a gym battle, and it is. But when you play it, it's just really hype. And I remember making fun of Dynamax. I still think Dynamax, by idea, is pretty stupid. But I think they actually did pretty well with a weird idea.
I will absolutely die on a hill to defend Dynamax as a mechanic. It is better than Mega. It is better than Z moves. It is the best gimmick mechanic they have added to the games.
I'm talking concepts.
Huh?
I'm just talking concepts, not mechanics.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. When I first heard about it, I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But like the fact it's actually made these competitive seasons so much more interesting, and it works really well for the story because it actually has some cool implications there where it's like you get to the gym battle, rather than it being every battle you're bringing out a Mega or something, it's like you get up to a climactic moment and you both get to have these massive kaiju Pokemon going at each other.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Which it's a really, I actually think that's probably the best executed part of the game, both in story and in competitive. It actually
is just bizarre.
I know.
Is that just where they just get giant?
They just become giant. And some
I have seen that, and I thought it was ridiculous.
And
but-
some of them evolve when they do it.
Yeah, there's some. So some of them have Gigantamax forms, which means they have like a new form, but the rest are just getting big. But the thing is that's like actually very cool about it is it's a very simple mechanic. It doubles their HP, and every one of their moves becomes a specific max move based off the type of that move, and the power of that move and stuff. So like any water move becomes Max Geyser, which creates rain when you attack with it. And Max Steel Spike, any steel move becomes Max Steel Spike, which increases your defense. So what that meant was that like now that you've got like from a competitive point of view, there's lots of Pokemon running things like Hydro Cannon because it has 150 base power, but it had always been bad before because you've got to recharge afterwards. But now it's like if this is a Pokemon I've got a Dynamax, you can run Hydro Cannon, or conversely, you get like Sagen Park recently tops the ladder with Dynamax Drifblim twice, running Gust as its flying stab because he Dynamaxes the Drifblim and gets max Airstreams, which are powerful enough anyway.
Yeah.
So it was like, it opens up all these really cool things you can do with moves and stuff like that. So it's very broken in singles, but for VGC, it actually, like for doubles battles, it actually was a really awesome mechanic. And I think in the story, it was really cool as well.
I think it worked.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, is there any other unpopular opinions we want to briefly touch up on before we wrap this up?
Zelda is bad.
We've been over this.
I
I
just
think that
wanted to
needs its
say,
own video.
like,
It does, yeah.
for the
That's
record,
coming. That's coming another time.
It is.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, the only shiny Pokemon I ever caught was a Magikarp. And
It's not as bad as you think. The problem is you evolved it.
yes.
The reason it sucks is because of you, not because you caught a Magikarp.
I actually didn't know what shiny Pokemon was like back in the day before I even had a computer or internet, and I was playing Sapphire, and I was just fishing, saw this gold Magikarp, and I almost thought it was a glitch. I was like, what the hell is this? Caught it, thought it was sick, and then I thought this is going to be an awesome gold Gyarados when it evolves. Next minute, it's just the red one that you get in gold for free. So
Yeah. You should have just never evolved it.
I should have never evolved it.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Mine, I'm happy to say my first shiny is now a help. It's the sword. Aegislash now. That is now my first shiny. But
That's
the first shiny I was going to get that I could have gotten is now my least favorite Pokemon because of his dumb, stupid fucking face. I love Gen 2, but Quagsire can eat my unmentionables because
I hate
what an
Gen 2,
asshole.
but Quagsire can eat my unmentionables.
Man, I found one.
I just love Quagsire.
I already
So
sick
stupid.
and Wooper.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to see Anime Ditto turn into a Quagsire. It'd look perfect. But I found, because my first shiny was in Diamond and Pearl. It wasn't even my copy of the game. So even if I caught it, I wouldn't have kept it. My mate would have just taken it from me.
Still the glory though. That you
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah. And it was in a Safari Zone. And to this day, I don't know how to optimally play the Safari Zone. So it got away. And I was pretty upset because it was the first one I ever found. But then I found one in Sword and Shield because I looked for one. It didn't actually take that long. It only took like 300 wild Pokemon or something. I don't even know if it
They've
took that
reduced
many.
the chance, so. But
I
this-
read a thing
It
a
was
while
reduced
ago.
chance, yes. I'm
about-
still yet to find one with the original base odds of like 8,000 or some shit.
yeah.
I'm
I'm
I've
determined.
found few on that. I found a shiny. I have a shiny Metagross. That was. I don't know if
That's
they
a
reduced the
wicked
odds for
one
black
to
and
get.
white. I don't
Shiny
know if they.
Metagross is my favorite shiny Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't know if
I
they
have
reduced
a
the odds for
hacked
black
one
and
on my
white.
DS.
Yeah. If they'd reduced the odds in black and white, then that was found on the halved odds, the 1 in 4,000 rather than running 8,000.
I believe that they did, but I could be wrong.
I think they did that for X and Y, but I'm not 100% certain.
I know that Gen 4 was the first. I don't know if it was the first, but it was one of the first games to allow you to lower the odds. It might have been
Yeah.
Gen 3, but I doubt it. Gen 2
no.
is when shiny Pokemon started.
Yeah. But yeah, so I have I caught a shiny Metang. I had the shiny Beedrill that my cousin stole,
Yeah, that's funny.
which is pretty funny.
Sick.
I laugh about it now.
And if I remember rightly, you had a Spinder. as
What's
well.
that?
Didn't you have a?
Spender. I don't think I had a Spender.
Spinder's
Yeah, I
cool,
thought you
man.
did.
I imagine how many sprites there are for that Pokemon.
I tried for a very long time for a shiny Bishop because I really wanted a shiny Bishop. Sorry, because I realized
Steel type, best type. Just saying.
Huh?
Said steel type, best type. Just saying.
I mean, literally, yes. Aside from fairy.
Nah, who cares?
Yeah.
They're not part of the original 3 games, so who cares?
Look,
Before
Clefairy
I get-
disagrees because Clefairy is now broken as hell.
I'm sure.
So, yeah. All right. I mean, I don't think there's much left for us to discuss. I mean, I'm sure there's many things we could talk about. In particular, I'm sure I could bring up some opinions that would make you guys very angry.
The only one that I really have is that no one else can really probably comment on is that I know that 3D Sonic games are not good, and trust me, I'm the first person to lose their fucking mind over how shit they are. But I really enjoy them. Like, I got all the achievements in Sonic 06, and it was fine, man. I'm just used to that gameplay. That's what I grew up with. I played Sonic Heroes for so many hours. I'm aware of how awful it is, but I just enjoy it so much, and I'm really good at it. Is the best part.
Yeah. And I think actually one I think we didn't touch on as well, which I could probably bring up, which is probably the most controversial opinion any of us have, is that I strongly dislike Nintendo as a company in terms of what they do for gaming. I know this is where we vehemently disagree, because I am of the opinion that they are responsible for making absolutely zero advancement, have absolutely no creative anything, is my feeling about them, despite how much I love Pokemon.
I would be very quick to argue that that is not true, because I think there's a bigger lens to look through on that, but that's not something that we can speak about in 2 minutes. And that would be,
it is not.
Yeah.
And if that lens is sales, you're right. They do have the highest sales.
I feel like I agree with Lockie, despite loving what they do.
Like I said, I think there's a lot more margin in terms of the properties that they have and they do with than people tend to acknowledge. But again, that's another thing. My issue with Nintendo at the moment is that they don't admit that their controllers don't fucking work. And I've had to replace...
That's because they're scummy as hell. It always has been. No, they're not.
They are.
No, to be fair, the Nintendo 64 controller had almost the same problem.
Yes.
Instead of you walking automatically, you just couldn't walk at all in the game. If your controller was stuck.
There's been some very shady, dodgy stuff. Pokemon actually being a big culprit of that, selling 2 different versions of the same freaking game.
Yeah, that's pretty lame.
Yeah.
I think the idea is so that your friends will have a different version, so that it encourages, because if it's just the same game, there's no reason to trade with people.
Sure.
From that perspective, I get it, but it is a money-making ploy. Absolutely.
There is kind of reason to trade. Like, if your friend catches something that you just can't be bothered doing, like when you're a kid, but
it's still
encourages. There's also a way better way, easier way of doing it. There's already RNG. When you buy your game, the RNG determines what particular random Pokemon you can get in it or something. There's tons of ways they could have done that. But they wanted the extra sales.
I also feel like that's more restrictive, because what if you and your friend get RNG that doesn't allow for another Pokemon? I get it, and you're right, but I see more reason as to why they did it.
You know what sucked for me? My friend also had Sapphire.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even get... I ended up finding someone with Ruby to get a C-Dot, and then I had Shiftry, and he was my favorite Pokemon. But yeah, that was the only one that I could get from Ruby.
I've always ended up buying just whatever game was left over, because Hayden pretty much has always bought the game first. So he's like, "Oh, I'm getting Sword, so you can have Shield." I'm like, "Cool."
I got Shield because it had Tyranitar in it.
I got Shield
like Tyranitar
just because Hayden got Sword. And
my bigger issue is their version of adding DLC, which is just re-release the game but better. I have less issue with release 2 of the same game, because I don't feel like not that many, like, while people will do it, not that many people are going to buy both copies of the game.
You're wrong.
They will. Honestly, I'm sure lots of people do, but I would not say the majority do.
My 3 different versions of 2 different generations. 3 different generations.
Why did you do that though?
Because again, I was more interested in
gotta catch them all.
Yeah.
But my issue is more, hey, let's release another version of this and add a few things. Admittedly, they're always a decent improvement. I don't know about Emerald. Emerald, from memory, I think it had the Battle Frontier, which was pretty cool. But like otherwise, I think it was that you could get both legendaries, and it had battle animations. I mean, battle animations. It had Pokemon animations, which I don't know why they took out. That was weird because that was a cool thing in 2. And obviously, Crystal let you play as a female. Pretty big thing there. And I think it had like, I don't think it had a Battle Frontier, but it had something similar. I don't remember. It also had the animations for Pokemon. Platinum had a whole other story thing, and I'm sure you could say more about what they added. Black and White is probably interesting because it's a sequel, and the
Black and White's the one that I think was the most justified.
Well, it's not the same game necessarily.
Yeah. It's the same. It's the same world and similar stuff, but it actually was a sequel. It wasn't.
I think Ultra Sun and Moon, from memory, is just adding shit. Yeah.
Is that the one where Doug Trio had hair?
Yes, it is the one where Doug Trio had hair.
And fucking Ampharos. Ampharos is a glam rock star.
That is cool.
Oh, really?
It's amazing. It's the best thing
that.
ever.
That was Mega Ampharos though, not
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
True. We're talking
Executor
about Pokemon, yeah.
is the best dragon.
It's I don't know why it's a dragon type, but I love that it's just a fucking palm tree.
You know it's great. It's being used competitively as well.
Of course it is.
It's actually had use.
My favorite thing was seeing it smash and just being like, cool, I can't get to that side of the map now.
Yeah.
Anyways, we should probably wrap this up.
I think so. Yeah.
Good chat, guys.
Yeah. It was cool.
Yeah.
It was fun.
To discuss Mass Effect 2 next time.
Yeah, or maybe even maybe
I need to
we can
replay it. I had a lot of opinions that I don't remember anymore.
Yeah. Maybe we can actually do a video on Nintendo at some point, or on Zelda. You know, if you've got any particular anything that we've discussed here that you want to hear about, let us know.
And tell us about how right our bad opinions are.
Exactly. Yeah. Please tell us you agree with us, because no one else will.
Yeah. That's why Lockie wants to talk about Zelda, so he can have a comment section.
Someone must agree with me. Someone must agree with me. I cannot be the only one.
It was funny.
I have a few friends, like at least 2 I can think of now, who actively dislike Zelda.
It's all right. As soon as Lockie got me into a room with him and someone he knew that didn't like Zelda, he's like, hey, you don't like Zelda either, yeah? And I'm like, I know what he's doing. He's sick of being 2 against 1 and he's trying to turn the tables.
It's not 2 against 1. Anytime I bring it up, I'm like, I literally once was talking about this, and then this dude goes, hey, I just think I should show you something. He lifts up his pant leg and he's covered in Zelda tats. I'm like, I'm out.
Just don't bother. If you say it, you're going to get punched in the face by someone. Someone's going to knock on your door and be like, you talking about Zelda? Yeah, what?
You see lots of Triforce tattoos these days too.
Time to shut you up. Shepard comes to your house. On top.
Go.
I should
All
go.
Right, let's do it.
We should
Let's
go.
call it there. Yeah,
All
we
right.
should go.
Goodbye, friends. Lovely talking to you again. We will see you next week. Who knows what we're going to talk about? We'll figure something out. Leave a suggestion so we don't have to think about it.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed it, please do like the video, and feel free to share it or anything.
Like and subscribe.
Please, it helps.
It does.
It does. Please, we need the watch hours.
We do.
All right. Bye, friends.
See ya.
guys.
Bye.